Dr. Michael Greger, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast, where every day is a climax. I'm so happy to have you
I
here.
am excited to be here.
I've just been reading your book, How Not to Age. It's a big book, and I was reading it at the beginning, and I've already bought some wheat germ, tempeh, and black
Excellent,
cumin.
excellent.
So I'm taking tips, but I had to dive straight into the sexual function bit, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Something that really surprised me about this was your recommendations or what you learned about protein and its relation to aging. Because everyone, when you talk about plant-based diets, that's the first question. Where do you get the protein from? So it was interesting that you found that you need less protein. Could you tell us more about that as we age?
Yeah. When it comes to protein aging, less may be more. Reducing protein intake, meaning restricting protein intake down to recommended levels, is
Uh-huh.
the only thing that could help block all 11 of the aging pathways, boosting NAD, improving immunity, decreasing oxidative stress and inflammation, insulin resistance, as well as the cancer-promoting hormone IGF-1. Surprisingly, there's no benefit to adding extra protein to the diets of older men and women in terms of muscle mass, muscle strength, or physical performance. Instead, the excess protein most Americans get causes a drop in the pro-longevity hormone FGF21, a drop in testosterone, a worsening of the age-accelerating hormone mTOR. So we should strive to stick to the recommended level of 0.8 grams per healthy kilogram body weight, which comes out to be about 45 grams a day for the average height woman, 55 a day for the average height man.
That's so interesting because I went on a diet recently, like a few years ago after the pandemic, and they increased my protein to maybe 1.2 or something per kilograms. And it was interesting. So the first month I did lose weight, but it's not something that's sustainable, I
Hmm.
guess. It's something maybe to do short term. What do you think about that? Increasing.
Well, I mean, short term, you can do anything. In fact, you could eat nothing for short term and go on a water only fast. Diets don't work by definition because
Mhm.
going on a diet implies that some people are going to go off a diet. Healthy habits have to become a way of life. And so if you want to, so if they're going to be lifelong, you want it to lead to a long life. And so that's why you want to eat healthy. There's no point in, the goal of weight loss is not to fit into a skinnier casket.
Yeah, definitely. I love that reference. So you referenced 13,000 studies, is that correct for this? Is there anything that surprised you in particular that you thought,
Oh
oh,
my God, tons,
mhm.
tons of surprising stuff that came up that I didn't know about that actually changed my, kind of changed my view on things. The exercise chapter, that was completely surprising. The sleep chapter, red wine, resveratrol, NAD supplements, vitamin D was surprising. Fish, protein restriction, microRNAs. The list just goes on and on.
So let's go to sleep then. What did you learn about sleep? That's so
Oh, yeah. So sleep. So I have a chapters on not just diet, but all the other kind of lifestyle behaviors. And for adults age, 65 and older, 78 hours a night is recommended, though the relationship between sleep and longevity is uncertain. But there are ways you can improve your sleep: warm showers, foot and body baths before bedtime, warm socks at night may help
Mhm.
with sleep. And I talk about the dangers of sleeping pills like Ambien, and really concentrate on optimal sleep hygiene and conditioning. But the big surprising thing about sleep is that its relationship with longevity is really uncertain. In fact, if anything, sleeping too long is associated with premature death more than sleeping too short.
Wow, that's interesting. What about vitamin D then? Because people don't
Oh,
talk
so
about
vitamin,
vitamin D too much. I mean, people always talk about B12, but I think a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D. Would that be correct?
yeah, unfortunately, just because, well, we started wearing clothes. How
Mm.
stupid is
Yeah,
that?
so
Um,
unorgasmic.
so we used to, run around half naked in equatorial Africa, getting baked in the sun all day and had lots of vitamin D. But now, clothes, there's like housing, there's all sorts of ways that prevent us from getting sufficient vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin. Um, if you're young enough and light enough and skinny enough, then 15 minutes on forearms and face of midday sun at typical latitudes during the summer months, get all the vitamin D you need. But during the winter months, particularly at higher latitudes, the sun's rays are just such an angle that no matter how long you sunbathe naked in Central Park in January, February, you're just not going to make enough vitamin D because the sun's rays are at such an oblique angle. So during the winter months and really year round, if you have a desk job or something, you're just not getting outside enough, I recommend taking 2,000 international units of vitamin D3 a day. Though we used to think that it improved all-cause mortality, meaning it made people live longer. But we just had some recent publications of truly massive vitamin D trials, these placebo-controlled trials. Now, people who have higher vitamin D levels tend to live longer, but maybe it's because they're outside jogging all day. You really don't know if it's cause and effect until you put it to the test. And that is what these double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized trials have done, and found that that there is no benefit for all-cause mortality, those being randomized to vitamin D, but there is a significant decrease in cancer mortality. But the reason that we don't see an overall extension of lifespan is that there's no benefit for vitamin D for heart disease, and heart disease is the #1 killer of men and women, and so it just kind of washes out the effect. However, if you eat a healthy enough diet that heart disease is not a concern for you, then your #1 nemesis is cancer, for which vitamin D supplementation may indeed decrease risk of dying from. So for those eating healthy diets, vitamin D may indeed extend life after all.
Interesting. So speaking about the sun, I've seen you've made a lot of videos and also in the book about sun cream for skin as we age. Is there anything about food that you recommend for healthy skin?
Oh my God, the skin chapter is actually one of the biggest chapters. The important thing, is the most effective way to slow the signs of skin aging is protect your skin from the sun.
Mhm.
Though ambient air pollution can also contribute. In terms of diet, the carotenoid nutrients in certain colorful fruits and vegetables are actually deposited in your skin when you eat them. You can offer this kind of healthy glow in both light and dark skin. Nutrients in greens can improve skin elasticity, collagen status, and facial wrinkles, perhaps due to this kind of inside-out sunscreen effect. Drinking extra water can decrease symptoms of skin dryness and roughness. Honeybush tea can reduce eye wrinkles. Cocoa powder can improve skin thickness, elasticity, and decrease wrinkle severity. Almonds can decrease wrinkle severity, perhaps by increasing skin UV resistance. Ground flax seeds can improve skin smoothness, and soy foods can improve skin elasticity and fine wrinkles. And there's a lot that I talk about, all sorts of kind of topical treatments, but in terms of diet, those are the most important.
I live in sunny Spain in Barcelona, and I don't actually use sun cream, but I'm thinking I just wear hats and stay in the shade. Is that because I don't really like all the idea of all
Oh,
the
that's even
chemicals.
better.
I think it's even better. Okay.
So they say it's even better. So physically blocking the sun is even better because the sunscreens, even the best sunscreens, these so-called mineral sunscreens like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, don't block all rays. They block a certain band of ultraviolet light, which is critically important for preventing skin cancer and some of the ravages of skin aging. But even visible light, infrared, that's not blocked by these sunscreens can contribute to skin aging. And so that's why really ideally it would be, avoiding, kind of midday sun, or, wearing hat, wearing clothing that'll block out the sun, staying in the shade, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I tend to do that and just maybe put it on my hands and just kind of hats and scarves and things. So I'm gonna
Sounds good to me.
sounds good. Okay. There's also an obsession now about collagen, I think and then people say, you can't have there's no collagen in a vegan diet. So how can we have, because I mean I think a lot of people think about, collagen peptides and collagen ingredients for longevity and youthful skin, etc. What do you think about that? Or what's the sort
Yeah, so I
of
have a webinar on the free webinar that you can look at on nutritionfacts.org, talking about all the science on collagen for both skin and joints.
Mhm.
And the bottom line is that rather than eating collagen, the best thing to do is to actually uh, boost your own body's ability to produce collagen. I mean, the collagen you eat doesn't actually end up in our skin. It gets
Mm.
broken down like any other protein. Doesn't actually end up in our joints. But there are things we can do, like make sure we have proper vitamin B12 status and vitamin C, and things that can actually boost our ability to produce its own collagen, which is the better way to go.
Amazing. So it's vitamin C, really, isn't it? Kind of having a good vitamin
Well,
C.
the ideal intake of vitamin C is probably 90 milligrams a day, whereas the recommendation is only for 75. So yeah, I encourage people to eat vitamin C rich foods every day, and so that's broccoli, bell peppers, citrus fruits, tropical fruits. There's some good sources of vitamin C.
Amazing. So let's get to the juicy part. So when it comes to preserving our sex lives, can regular sex keep us young?
Well, it's difficult to tease out cause and effect because reverse causation. Now, so for example, people have more sex, live longer, but is that because they're healthier?
Mhm.
And that's leading to both as a confounding factor. And so there have yet to be any randomized controlled trials. They'll certainly sign me up, although I wouldn't want to end up in the control group. So maybe don't sign me up. But yeah, it's true. Observational studies show that having more orgasms actually is associated with longer lifespan. Whether it's cause and effect, we still don't know.
So it could be solo sex then that can keep you.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So for men, they measured the number of ejaculations, period,
Mhm.
independent of whether there was a partner involved.
Okay. But I guess a partnered sex would have more kind of emotional kind of benefits, perhaps for that kind of that side of things that can probably help you feel
You know,
happier or
and men, interestingly, get a boost of testosterone when they have sex with a partner, but not when they
Mhm.
masturbate.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Um, isn't that
Wow.
interesting? They think it's kind of this. The testosterone has to do with some kind of competitive success. They feel that this kind of conquering mentality that one might not get alone.
That's so interesting. And I read something very interesting today as well. I eat an apple every day in my smoothies, and I'll be continuing. Can you tell us the link between apple eating and female sexual function?
Yes, women who eat apples have improved sexual function at all stages of life. Again, this is not a randomized controlled trial. It's not like they randomize people to apples or pears, for example, and sees that there's some
Mm.
specific benefits to pears. And one might presume that apple eaters are healthier than other. I mean, who eats apples? People who tend to presumably have healthier lifestyles in general, and maybe it's something about apple eaters rather than the apple itself that's contributing. But yes, indeed, apple eaters have significantly improved function, at least for women.
Mhm. Yeah, one of my big questions I have, which I don't feel is answered, is is it all over after menopause? I mean, I think there's lots of you know, maybe the information we have about menopause and sexual function after menopause is not out there as much. And from some experts that I've interviewed on here, and they talk about, a lot of them are taking BHRT and things like that. Do you think it's possible to approach menopause naturally and still have a fulfilling sexual life post-menopause through healthy diet and healthy practices? If so,
Absolutely. I mean, the stereotype of older adults as asexual is not only ageist, but really inaccurate, right? Sex is a valued part of full adult lives. And, I talk about some of the statistics in the books when they actually go around to see what's happening in nursing homes, and there's
oh
quite a
yeah.
lot.
Mhm.
But the number one reason for lack of sexual activity among older adults is physical health problems or limitations. And so, general body upkeep can help people keep actively engaged in all life has to offer. And then I talk about the two kind of major problems For women tends to be low sexual desire. For men, tends to be erectile dysfunction.
So speaking about erectile dysfunction, what is the link between diet and age-related erectile dysfunction? I mean, what should men be eating to stay hard? Because I actually I went to this sex tech fair in Berlin a few months ago, and there's a guy there who has a company called Firmtech, and he had this graph about, 40% of men have no, at 40, it's 40% of erectile dysfunction, 50 years old, 50%, 60%. It just seems such an impactful graph to see. I mean, is this avoidable? Can we
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no. It's in terms of erectile function, smoking cessation, weight loss, physical activity can help with erectile dysfunction. With the exception of one type of exercise, prolonged cycling, which can actually make it worse because you're putting pressure on the pudendal nerve. And I should and I talk about how drugs like Viagra can have both short-term and long-term adverse effects. And in terms of supplements, although ginseng appears to have no effect on female sexual dysfunction, Korean red ginseng does significantly improve erectile function in men. So there is, but ideally we should treat the underlying cause, which is inadequate blood flow, and that has to do with the how well one's blood vessels dilate, and that has to do with healthy arteries, keeping the endothelium, the inner lining of our blood vessels, healthy, and we can do that by not, traumatizing them 3 times a day by eating foods too high in salt, sugar and saturated fat, trans fats, dietary cholesterol, and going out of our way to eat nitrate-rich foods, which particularly are beets and beet juice, and dark green leafy vegetables. Most concentrated sources are arugula, also known as rocket lettuce.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think they talk about beet juice in is it Game Changers as well for
Oh,
yeah, I
I
think
don't remember, but that would do it.
yeah, that sounds good. So there's lots of misinformation about soy and male virility. And I saw you've got this I love how you say ED, early death.
Oh,
So
yeah,
cool.
no, right, no, because it can be a, basically atherosclerosis, hardening the
Mm,
arteries. It's a systemic disease. So if you have it in one place, you have it all over your arterial tree, and so inadequate blood flow to the penis can kind of be a harbinger of inadequate blood flow to the brain in terms of stroke risk, inadequate blood flow to the heart in terms of heart attack risk. And so yeah, it's critically important to treat the underlying cause, because just taking pills just may help with the symptoms, but won't actually prolong your life.
So I was gonna, about the you had a subtitle here called Soy Joy. So that's
Ah,
interesting. Because everyone, thinks that soy is going to make you have moobs and it's going to be even some of my female friends have told them have been very sensitive to it. It provokes an early period. I don't know if this is true or just anecdotal, but I think there's a lot of misinformation about soy. Do you think soy should be organic or because I think the GMO soy is probably not as good for us. What are the myths about soy and how are they good for us?
oh my God, there's so many myths about soy. Where do you even start? So there's a myth about soy and breast cancer. There's a myth about soy and male hormones. There's a myth about on down the list. Basically, soy is really misunderstood. In terms of cancer risk, people don't understand there's actually 2 types of estrogen receptors in the body, alpha and beta. The phytoestrogens in soy bind to the beta receptors, where your own endogenous estrogen binds to the alpha receptors. So the effects of soy on different tissues depends on the relative concentration, relative ratio of alpha to beta. And so estrogen has, positive effects on some tissues, but negative effects on others. So, for example, estrogen is good for your bones. but bad for the breast. So ideally, we'd have some kind of selective estrogen receptor modulator to have estrogenic effects in some tissues and anti-estrogenic effects in others, and that's exactly what soy does. Soy appears to lower breast cancer risk, which is an anti-estrogenic effect, at the same time reducing menopausal hot flash symptoms. That's a pro-estrogenic effect. So with the soy, you get kind of the best of both worlds. So we should eat legumes, soy, and other, chickpeas, lentils, beans every day. And particularly um, for female sexual function, not only do soy foods decrease menopausal hot flash symptoms, these so-called vasomotor symptoms, which is one of the reasons why, Japan, which has the highest soy consumption per capita in the world, has the lowest rates of hot flashes. In fact, there isn't even a word for hot flash in the Japanese language. And they also, so for example, Japanese Americans also have the lowest rates of vaginal dryness. And we know that it's due to the soy because you can do randomized controlled trials of even just placebo-controlled trials. It's not like you have placebo tofu, but you can, stick the phytoestrogens from soy into a pill versus a placebo sugar pill, and you can prove that you can get a significant improvement in sexual quality of life, reduced vaginal dryness, increased libido, being randomized to either soy protein versus dairy protein or the soy phytoestrogens themselves.
Right. So it's okay to have soy every day, do you think? Is there any
Oh,
limit?
absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can overdo it. I do talk about that one case report from New York, where this 44-year-old woman presented to her gynecologist with,
I think I just read that. All the orgasm.
right, right. She had such libido that it required her, as they described, to self-stimulate to orgasm approximately 15 times a day. Now that is an
Wow.
orgasmic life. But she was bothered by it. A month before, she had gone on this almost exclusively soy-based diet, like eating 4 pounds of soy, at more than 4 pounds of soy food a day for some reason.
Wow.
And so they're like, why don't you cut back on that? And so she cut back, and within 3 months, her desire cooled to the point where she engaged in what they called satisfying sexual activity only twice a day, and she evidently felt that was better for her. So it's all that matters.
Yeah, I was really interested in what you talked about it with the mushroom study. That was so interesting about.
Oh, the odor.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating.
Isn't that
Yeah,
interesting?
it's so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting. It's this whole part. It's we'd like to enlighten the audience who've not read it.
Yeah, in terms of sex life, there's a distinctive body odor of the elderly
Mm.
due to a chemical that we start producing as early as age 40 called 2-nonenal, which has this kind of unpleasant, kind of grassy, greasy odor. And it's caused by the oxidation of omega-7 fats that are increasingly exuded from our skin as we age. But the good news is we can cut this odor by eating plain white button mushrooms and chlorophyll-rich dark green leafy vegetables.
Wow, it's so interesting. I love how you mentioned the toys as well, because I'm in this industry of designing toys and about safety, the phthalates and how dangerous they can
Oh,
be. And
yeah.
that's so interesting. I mean, because they are hormone disruptors. Would you like to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so these plastics compounds are added for kind of flexibility. So in like what they call it, like jelly dildos,
Mm.
that is just absolutely packed with phthalates. And so it's really kind of going at cross purposes. Here you are
Yeah.
disrupting your hormones, decreasing potentially decreasing your libido with these toys that you might want to have the opposite effect. And so they've been eliminated from children's toys
Uh,
because they're considered so dangerous, but have yet to be taken out from adult toys. And so that's why I would encourage people to stick to something like silicone instead, which does not have those plastics compounds added.
That's what my message too. Yeah, definitely,
Well,
definitely
great.
silicone. Yeah. And so for an audience, let's say who are not vegan, what three tips would you like to share with them about how to age healthily for people who are not plant-based
For their sexuality or
or
just in general?
anything, just aging in general?
Okay, well, so I mean, in terms of sexuality, um, as I mentioned, sexual responses in both women and men are related to blood circulation. So what's good for our heart is good for our genitals. And indeed, men and women randomized to healthier diets see an improvement in sexual function, whether that's an anti-inflammatory effect or a blood vessel dilating effect, or lower phthalate exposure because you're eating less processed foods or less BPA. In terms of sexual desire, there's a dangerous and ineffective drug that's promoted, at least here in the United States, so I encourage people to stay away from, called Filsariban. But the lavender and bitter orange aromatherapy may help
Oh
with
wow,
the
I read that. So interesting. Wow.
um, in terms of men, supplemental testosterone can help with low libido, though the risks slightly outweigh the benefits. Thankfully, there are safe natural ways to boost testosterone with diet and lifestyle behaviors, such as eating less than a teaspoon a day of fenugreek seeds and avoiding obesity, sleep deprivation, and beer.
Mm.
Um, there's actually a compound in beer that impairs testosterone. The spice saffron can improve sexual impairment caused by Prozac type antidepressant drugs, which can severely impact one's ability to achieve orgasm. Maca root may help improve sexual desire in men and sexual function in women. Ashwagandha, another root, may improve some aspects of female sexual function, but at the risk of liver toxicity. So I encourage people not to do it. About half of postmenopausal women suffer these, genitourinary symptoms of menopause. The first line of treatment of which are these kind of low osmolarity vaginal moisturizers and lubricants. And I can really only find a few brands that fit the bill. And then after that, I talk about topical hormones, intravaginal estrogens, or DHEA. Vaginal estrogen is safer, more effective to manage vaginal symptoms than oral estrogens,
Oh,
and oral DHEA doesn't seem to work at all. However, oral fenugreek seeds and topical fennel creams can improve sexual symptoms in postmenopausal women. And in terms of what we can do just aging in general, only about 25% of the difference in lifespan between people is due to genetics. So what can we do over the majority of which we have some control? That's where we look to the blue zones, these areas of
mm.
exceptional longevity around the world. They have up to 10 times the rate of centenarians, and they have some shared lifestyle characteristics such as, they tend not to smoke, daily exercise, but the most important thing is thought to be their diet. And they center their diets around whole plant foods. So they minimize processed foods. They minimize, meat, dairy, sugar, eggs, salt, while maximizing fruits, vegetables, whole grains, those legumes, nuts and seeds, mushrooms, herbs and spices, basically real food that grows out of the ground. These are our healthiest choices.
Amazing. I love all the recipes that you share on Instagram Reels, the on nutrition facts. But I have a question. Do you have any guilty pleasures, some kind of junk food that you know is not good for you that you enjoy?
Oh, oh,
And,
totally.
and
Oh,
how do and
I
how can we
put
do with their cheat meals? I mean, vegan sin.
I every Thanksgiving I put marshmallows on my sweet potatoes.
Okay.
Put them on the flames and they all get all crispy and gooey, and I burn my mouth because I don't wait them. They're so delicious. I don't wait till they cool down. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that is a treat I look forward to every year.
Yeah, I have about one cheat meal a week, and then
Oh,
I go to this one amazing vegan bakery here in Barcelona. It does the most incredible cakes. That's all kind of one time a week. Is it okay
oh,
to have a cheat
nice.
meal?
Nice. Look, it doesn't matter what you eat on your birthdays, holidays, special occasions. It's really day-to-day stuff that adds up.
Yeah.
And our body has a tremendous capacity to bounce back from injury. And so yeah, that you're doing way better than most people whose cheat meals are breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And one question I ask all of my guests, I'm a big reader. What is the book that changed your life?
The book that changed my life is Getting Things Done,
Oh,
which is a productivity system, which has enabled me to keep up my productivity all these years. And so, if anyone's juggling lots of things in their life, I encourage you to go to your local public library and picking up a copy. Really the most impactful thing that changes my day-to-day life.
and what are you working on now?
My next book.
Yeah.
My next book is going to be How Not to Hurt, talking
Oh,
about
okay.
lifestyle management of pain.
Wow, such a big industry, the pain industry. Yeah. Wow,
It
interesting.
needs a little shaking up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think inflammation is probably a big thing as well. So
Yeah,
turmeric, I
sure.
mean, turmeric roots, is going to be
And
hopefully,
ginger and
yeah,
chamomile tea and all sorts of wonderful things. Absolutely.
amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Orgasmic Lifestyle podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
I had an orgasmic time. I'm looking forward to coming back.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Stop the recording.